watching. Perfect. All right, so we are live, and I am actually excited about this live stream because I'm actually going to be working on my actual project. So, in this particular video, my goal is to work on my project, which is a little bit more complex than sort of like a basic entry level project. And I'm doing it for two reasons. Number one is, well, the first thing is I couldn't figure out what do I want to do on a live stream this week. That was number one. Make sure my sound is okay here. Yeah. Sorry. So I really couldn't figure out what I wanted to talk about this week, and so at the last minute I decided, you know what, I'm just going to work on my project because this is a real world project. It has some lots of complexities. It's not a simple project by any single means, and lots of moving parts. And so what I'm hoping to do in this video is basically just build in public, talk about what I'm doing, talk about the choices, talk about the problems, talk about the issues that I'm kind of experiencing, facing, and hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got some value from it. And if you're interested, feel free to sign up for the application. There's a couple things that's wrong with the current state of where this project is at right now. And in this video, I'm going to try to go through and fix some of those issues, but also talk about the actual project itself, what the intention is, what the goals are, and how it works at a very, very high level. So, with that, let's going to jump right into sort of the details. So, what I'll do is I'm going to start by just giving sort of an overview of the project because it's a brand new sort of concept, at least in my world, and it's not very clear if you're not if you're not if you're new to this space about doing sales, like what the problem is that it's trying to solve. So I'm going to try to break that down in one shape or form, and then we'll go from there. So let's talk about the project. So the name of the project is Lead Score AI, and it has multiple moving parts. Actually, you know what? I want to back up a little bit. Let me just back up a little bit. I'm going to do this for a second. Let me pretend like I didn't even start this yet. Because I want to add destination. How do I add a destination? Still don't know how to do that. Show camera effects. Current switcher. Yeah, that's what it is. Can I always see the counter? Okay. All right. So welcome, guys. Welcome online. I want to talk about a couple of things first before I actually get started. I kind of just jumped the gun a little bit talking about the actual product. So first of all, we have been doing these live sessions now for about 3 weeks. No, about a month. More than that. How many live sessions have we done? Let's go see. So if you go to my channel, go to live. No, sorry, not live. If we go to videos and then we go down to, actually it's labeled as a course. So you have to go on the course playlist. So we have been doing these lives now for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we got 11 lives under our belts. That's a lot. That's actually more than I thought. So we've been doing this for a while now. I've kind of spent a lot of time talking about about, you know, the basics, trying to get people going, etc., etc. Today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. So, first of all, what I want to say is if you haven't already, if you haven't joined the school community, please join my school community. It's where I can actually one-on-one kind of connect with you and try to learn what is it that you're looking for from these videos, what is it that I can help you with, and from there try to set up a sort of a structure, a system in place that you could benefit from it. So if you haven't already, this is the live community. To join, you just got to go to, let me just do it from the top just so at least for everybody. So it's Dwayne, DWAIN, DWAIN.me/SKOOL. Link is always in the description of this video, by the way. So you go here, you're going to see it shows you that it's free community, free to join, and then you're going to click on join group, and it'll ask you to sign up if you don't have a sign up school community already. And I'm actually really proud because this week I launched a couple of things. So number one, let me just talk about this for a second, then we're going to jump into the video. So I launched my Cloudflare Essentials 101 course. It's only part one of a multi-part series. So the first half was really just foundational knowledge. So if you're new to Cloudflare, you're trying to figure out how to set up Cloudflare, you're trying to figure out, you know, like the basics, trying to understand some of the core concepts, this video is for you. I literally, in this video, take you from like absolute nothing to buying a domain name. Like I literally bought the domain name on this video, walked you through, and by the end of the video, we had a super basic Hello World application, like super basic. Like it was literally one line of text, right? It was literally one line. So let me see if you can pull it up. Just look there. That's the website. Okay, the entire website. So if you're brand new to Cloudflare, you don't know how to like deal with some of the complexity, and this for sure is a tutorial for you. And I will swear that this is bar none the best tutorials online, because I've been really paying attention to the Cloudflare space and what's going on. And I just see there's a lot of people that kind of know what they're doing. They're smart people, but they're very high level technical. And I want to distill this information to a level where it's like, it's just so basic and just so simple that you can benefit from it without having, oops, did I just automatically, I did something around it. I don't know what I did. I changed the course order from 0 to hero. What is a Cloudflare worker? Oh no, that's right. So yeah, so if you haven't joined the community, I promise you, you will get some value from it. It's just getting started. We're just under 50 people now, and we're starting to see more people sort of engage in. I just put out a recent poll, by the way, asking people to vote on which actual projects or ideas they want me to work on, and so I'm starting to get some the thing now. We only got 6 people that actually vote here, but the feedback is important. I got 2 people that actually voted on authentication and security. So this helps me to kind of figure out what type of priority of what type of videos I should be posting, what types of content I should be putting for you guys. So please, by all means, join the community, vote, and if you got questions, message me inside of here, because this is where it's the best place to sort of ask those questions, etc. So that's number one. Right, so with that out of the way, oh, and by the way, I should mention as well too, there is a Foundations 101. So if you're like a business person or you're like a salesperson and you've been online but you just don't really know how this stuff works under the covers, then this video is for you. This set of tutorials, and they're super short, by the way. I just want to be clear with it. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, right? Like this is like while you're like eating lunch, you can watch a video, you know, or I don't know, whatever. Like whatever it is that you're doing in your spare time, you're at the doctor's office, you could watch a video and you could learn something. So please do log in, join the community, watch it, 100% free thing. Where are we going with this? We're actually going to be building a 7-day challenge. So this is what I'm working on next right now. This course here is currently, I got the framework for it. It's sort of like a build-in public type of thing. But I'm going to be talking very specifically about how to choose your idea, how to get set up, how to find a market, how to connect with your audience, how to start getting beta test users to test your product, the whole 9 yards. Okay. And with that, that's kind of what this lead score is about. So if you're new to the world of business, and if you're new to the world of like building a product, a SaaS based product, one of the hardest things, and I can't stress this enough, one of the hardest things that you will have to do is figure out how to find customers. It is so hard. I can't stress this enough. It's a problem. So with that, I failed at this so many times that I don't even know how to highlight my failures. It's just too many. So of recently, I decided that I really, really want to solve this problem. And I was asking myself, like, why is it that I can't solve this problem? Like, what's the problem? What's the thing? And I kind of boiled it down to a couple of things. Number one is if you're technical, in fact, you know what? This person actually, I was literally on Reddit the other day. I'm digressing a little bit here, but it's relevant. So this person, I was on Reddit the other day, and somebody asked me this spring here. No, not this one. Where is it? Here, thanks for plan is very responsive. This guy. So this guy says, looking to finally launch something real and open to collaborating. Okay. But he says, lately I've been heads down working on a project. However, but I'm hitting a stage where I really need someone strong in marketing and growth to help make it further. Not just someone to promote it, but someone who actually gets early stage disruption. So in other words, he's looking for a marketer, somebody that could basically help him to kind of promote his product. Here's the problem. The problem is that this is a really, really hard thing to do. And if you're technical, what ends up happening is you spend so much time working on building your product, which is what this guy was doing, that when it comes to turn around and actually try to market it, you end up in a problem where you just don't know what to do. You just don't know the pieces to market your product. So this has been such a big problem that I've been thinking about it really a lot. But so that's one half of the conversation. Like, how do you even find the people to kind of market to connect with, etc.? And I genuinely have this problem. I want to be clear. One of the biggest challenges that I've had with my own business, SnapSuite, is how do we market? Now, we found some early success with this, and then we've lost those marketing channels because things have changed. And now I'm trying to restart my marketing efforts in trying to figure out this market again, because the constant landscape is constantly changing. So Lead Score is not just a platform to kind of help you do like some, basic sales and marketing. There's tons of platforms that does that. Lead Score is designed specifically for technical and salespeople, but mostly technical business owners that like just don't know what to do. They just don't understand this stuff. They got a lot of details in their brain about how they like what their software is, but they just don't know how to market it. They don't know how to promote it, etc. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this particular video. And we're going to go a little bit deep. So first level, let me just give you sort of a high level overview of the platform, what is thing. So it's kind of designed like a CRM at the surface. It's designed like a CRM for one reason, because when you're doing sales, you need to be able to manually interject and figure out who should I pick up the phone and call, who's booked a meeting with me, and who do I need to follow up on. Those are kind of probably the big ones. And who can I close tomorrow, right? So those are sort of the high level. However, under the surface, to make those decisions, those very 4 or 5 decisions that I just outlined, there's just a ton of activities that has to happen. You got to send out emails. You got to send out SMS. You got to basically make calls. You got to try and, send out proposals, right? You got to try to book meetings. Like, there's just so many different things. You have to post content. Like, it's just a lot of things under the hood that's not necessarily immediately obvious. And that's just only if you actually know who you're marketing to. The problem becomes if you don't know who you're marketing to, like if you absolutely don't know who you're marketing to at all, it gets even worse. And so with that, like what we're going to do is we're going to try to see if we can sort of distill that into very simple actions that you could perform in order to accomplish the goal of marketing. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so let's go write some code. So let me talk about the platform actually. So here's the platform. On the surface, it's a very simple, at least in my opinion, platform. It has one mission in mind, which is to show as many leads as possible. So imagine a system where you can just basically dump leads into this platform. And by dump leads, I mean just all your leads. Okay, so yeah, you can dump all your leads inside of here. Okay, it has an ability so you can come in here, click on import, and you could basically browse, upload a CSV file, whatever it is, and it'll import it to kind of work in the background. The main goal of this platform is the system spends its time scoring the leads. That's what it does. It spends its time scoring the leads. So what is a score? A score is a point, or think of it like a ranking system, right? So let me just explain what this is first, and then I'll kind of go into the details. So the scoring system. So in my experience, one of the biggest challenges that you have when you're doing sales is there's only so much time in a day. And if you have, let's say, so the goal with this software, by the way, is so that one salesperson can manage 100,000 leads. One salesperson, 100,000 leads. Because I believe those are the numbers that you have to have in today's era to truly sort of like make real business happen. But it's almost impossible in today's world for one salesperson to manage 100,000 leads. It's just not feasible based on the current tools that exist today. So in order for that to happen, the salesperson can only be spending his time on the top, let's call it 3 to 5% max, that is worth his time, his or her time. So in order to do that, you must have some kind of ranking system that could kind of like bubble up the most important leads to the top of the funnel, or not the top of the funnel, but the top of the stack, so that they can focus on them. And that's what the lead scoring system is. The higher the score, the more important the lead. The lower the score, the less important it is. So the system will basically, at the start, pull the leads from imported leads. Then it's going to validate the leads. And by validate, I mean make sure that it has a valid phone number, has a valid email address, has a valid website, all that kind of stuff. And then it's going to basically convert them into marketing qualified leads, which means that it has enough information that is validated them and that the lead is relevant to what it's looking for, to what you're looking for. So if you say that I'm looking for a plumber or HVAC company, or I'm looking for a sales agency, whatever it is that you're looking for, the marketing qualified leads with AI will help to sort of review that lead and figure out whether it's actually the right lead for you. And then only when it's marketing qualified, then the system will start sending out emails, messages, text message, every single thing, LinkedIn connections, Instagram connections, Facebook messages, the whole 9 yards, right? In order to connect with that person. Only when it finishes connecting, then the lead system will move it over to sales qualified leads. And the sales qualified lead section is basically saying, hey, Mr. whoever is using the tool, sales rep or her, you can now use this platform to then do your outreach. In other words, you can connect with these people because they're highly qualified leads. And your goal now is to move them through the pipeline. Okay. So you might say, okay, their initial outreach, then you can see your warm leads, etc. The goal is that the system is dynamically moving these leads as it progresses over time through this funnel. You don't have to do any of this stuff. You could, but you don't have to, because the system is going through and moving them over for you manually. Automated. It's just automatically doing that. So let's say you have this lead here. You made a call to that. The system did a call with that. Sent out an email to this particular person, and this person responded to the application. This person responded. The system would automatically move them over to maybe a third follow-up or something like that, right? So the system just slowly moves them across the pipeline. You don't have to do any of that work, right? So, hey, thanks for the thumbs up. Just saw your thumbs up there. Appreciate it. So that's basically what the goal is. All right. Okay, so with that, we're going to start working. Let's start actually building some stuff here, because we're not here to sell this program. That's not what the mission or the goal is. The goal is basically to kind of build it and actually focus on some problems. All right, so what are the problems that I have? I have a couple bugs in the application right now that I want to kind of focus on and solve, which is the very first thing is you can come in here and you could tag a employee. So what I should mention, by the way, when you click on any lead, whether it's in this list view or in the pipeline view, if you click on them, it opens up the side panel. And the side panel is where you do all the actions for that specific lead. So for example, let's say this particular person, I could click in here, I could put some notes, I could say, interested, spoke to this person and they're actually interested in booking a second call with me, right? So as an example, and then I can save those notes, etc., right? You have an edit section here where you can just put some more information about that person. And then more importantly, you could start to tag them. So I could say interested, T-E-R-E-S-T-E-D, right? And I could say maybe follow up next week. Just as an example, these are just tags that you could just add to the application. You could upload documents. You have related contacts. You could assign yourself a task specific. So it's like call, let's say need to review proposal, right? So let's say something like that. So proposal review, right? Something, and then you could kind of put task or whatever. So it has all the basic functionalities. However, there's a couple bugs inside of here that I need to kind of fix, and that's what we're going to be working through in this particular demo, including when you send out an email. So if you click in here, you click on send email. No, sorry, this one. Click here, you click on send email. It'll automatically put in the email address. You could choose a bunch of templates, right? These templates are kind of AI merged, so they're kind of generated from AI. There's a whole template section in the back of the application as well too. But the point is that those emails will show up here, any calls that you did would show up here, and any scoring that the system does. So again, keep in mind that the system consistently keeps scoring the leads in the background, because every time you do an activity, it triggers off more activities, and all this runs in the background. And the goal is that it's sitting and it's running on Cloudflare workers, right? So what is it that I'm basically doing? So from a technical standpoint, so because we're going to be shifting over to the technical, is let's go with let's see, titled. What is this? This is not relevant. I'll reuse this one. I haven't bought mirrors yet. Live. Take all of this and delete it. Okay. So it's like this. So when you do an activity, so let's just say you as an individual came into LeadScore, C-O-R-E, okay, and you update a record in the database, right? And by update a record, I mean update a lead, right? So you made a change, you add a note or something like that, or whatever. LeadScore running on a bunch of Cloudflare workers will get a notification, and then it just kicks off a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to sort of review the lead. It's going to try to update the score. It's going to see if it needs to trigger any activity. Right? What do I mean by that? An activity could be an email. An activity could be an SMS. An activity could be a LinkedIn. right? Message or something. An activity could be an Instagram, right? Like you get the idea. It could be any one of those n number of things. And then as those responses come back, depending on the response, it basically says, is this a positive response, right? Or is this a negative response? And based on that, it basically updates the score. Let's see. O-R-E. Okay. So that's basically what the mission is. And that's what this is. So when you come back into the score history, right, I might remove points because the website has relevant information related to the target industry. 15 points was, it's just been removed basically because the description was relevant. So this is not relevant. Actually, this is just demo data anyway. So I think it's just populated with a bunch of random stuff here. See, because it has a website URL, it added 5 points. This is an example. Oh, it had broken links, so it minus 20 points. So it's constantly doing that behind the scenes, adding and removing the points so that you could tally it, so that we could figure out whether your score is higher or lower. Higher the score, more valuable. Lower the score, least valuable, right? So the salesperson is not wasting their time. And then the idea is that whenever you get to the speed call section, so this is a speed dialer. When you click on the call button here, it's going to pop up my dialer and thing, but I won't do that right now. Is restarted. Hey, this seems like a very good session. A really solid breakdown. I appreciate the thing. Hey, thanks for joining in, man, Simon. Oh, every time I have to keep resizing this window. Hey, appreciate you joining and saying hi and same thing. Yeah, lead score is one of those things where it's like I actually don't talk about it because it's actually, you know, the goal of my community isn't really to sell lead score. But the truth is, the more and more I'm thinking about it, I was like, you know what, the audience that are in vibe coding can actually benefit from lead score. So there might be some conversions over time, but more importantly, what I really wanted to do in this video is really just talk more technical, like deep knowledge about how I'm using sort of Cloudflare in the background to kind of solve real world problems, business use case, at least on my side. So yeah, no, I appreciate that, and thanks for joining in, man. I'm happy that you're hanging around. So yeah, the two of us, by the way, because we got a small stream tonight, which is fine. Because I actually randomly, honestly, I really was struggling. I was like, I don't know what I want to talk about today, but I was like, you know what, let's just work on lead score because I got a bunch of stuff that has to be done there. So and yeah, by the way, I ask any questions about any single thing. It doesn't really matter. Like it's I'm totally fine on veering off topic if need be. So, but yeah, but the point is that this is the number one problem, and I find, just going back to this diagram for a second here, that you technically as a business owner, like when you're trying to do leads or when you're trying to find leads, this is basically what you're doing every day, all day long, right? Like think about it. Like what is the process of finding a customer? Okay, there's a couple of things that you kind of have to do, and again, this is just me over tons of time doing trial and error, figuring this stuff out and realizing that, you know what, this is a really big problem that I don't think people truly have solved, at least in the way that I want to solve it. Like that's the thing. Obviously, people have been working on this for years, and there's tons of experts out there. So there's a couple of things. So number one is, actually, let me do this. Let me just increase this size a little bit. So yeah, maybe too thick. OCD. Yeah, there we go. Better. So so think about like what it means when you actually have to like do a lead gen for not necessarily a lead gen, but think about like just the process of acquiring a customer, because it's kind of two sides of the coin, right? If you have a brand new product, like there's sort of, this is the two coins that I think. If you have an absolute brand new product, your first question is who, right? Like who is going to buy your product? Okay, like it's like you have a product, but you actually don't know who is going to buy it. You think you know because you're building it, and so you're like, no, it's going to be these people that's going to buy my product. And I can assure you, 90% of the time you're wrong. Like, I mean, there's a chance that you might be right, but most of the time you're wrong. And that happens to me so many times in business. It's not even funny. To the point where it's like I just come to the conclusion that if I'm building a brand new product, I have an idea of the problem that I'm solving for the specific target, but I'm not necessarily certain who is going to actually latch on to that product, right? So that's the first question that you're kind of asking. And the only way to figure out this who is to do a couple things, right? Like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You could do like a, waiting list, right? The cool thing now that the cool kids are doing, which is something that I'm trying to work on as well too, which is why I'm even doing this here, is a build in public, right? Build in public. Oops. Public, right? And that basically means you're just sharing, on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, whatever it is, your progress of a tool that you're building, so you could generate a bunch of sort of like people that are interested in it, which will eventually you'll send them to your waiting list. Okay, so that's one way of generating the content. The other way to kind of figure it out is you just run ads, right? So you just run some ads and you just test the market. You test your messaging. Okay, you say something like, hey, if you're struggling with, I don't know, baldness as an example, right? And you need a way to track whether your hair is growing or something with AI, I don't know, right? You can definitely do that, and that would be a way to figure out where you're thinking. Hello, hey, long time. What's the saying? Long time follower, something like that. Ramon, how are you doing, man? It's been a while, like a long time actually. I haven't seen you in ages. You've been a little bit silent. Now I know you're working on some deep problems in at your company, and you said you were doing some transition and stuff like that. Hopefully, you've gotten all of that stuff kind of worked out. But it's good to see you back. Have you gotten them worked out, by the way? Like, is it still in progress, or how far are you along? I'm kind of curious. Tell me about your updates while I take a yogurt here. Anyway, in either case, good to see you. I'm happy to see that you're back. So, where were we? Right. So, if you're, like I said, if you got a brand new product. Oops, mouse is here. N-E, let me put it in a different color just for the sake of it. N-E-W, new product. Okay, so if you got a brand new product, then you have to, there's no other way in today's world to do this right to scale up your business. You got to figure out who is it that you're marketing to. In other words, who is your ICP? We got to work in success. Hey, congratulations, man. Congratulations. That's a big win for you, man. Congratulations. I'm happy to hear that that's going. So what I'm basically hearing is that you can take a little bit of breather, and you can kind of, keep the corporate going, but you could kind of focus on your mission of building out your application. That's what I'm hearing. So that's good. I'm happy to hear that. And you got tons of stuff to get caught up on, but I'm really happy to see you back. So yeah. And also hopefully you're gonna get some downtime over the holidays as well too. So, but that's cool. Welcome back. So yeah. So anyway, so new product. That's number one. If you're building a new product, right? You need to figure out who you are, who you're targeted to, which is your ICP, your ideal customer profile. We talked about this before. So you got to create a waiting list. You got to build in public, and this is the modern thing to do now. Or if you're not comfortable building in public because that's not your personality, right? Like, let's just be real about this. Not everybody has a personality to kind of jump out in camera and just talk to a camera for hours on end, aka hint, hint, me, with nobody showing up. Okay, it takes a little bit of courage, and it takes a little bit of just a mental mindset in order to do it right? But if you can do it, it has some potential. And actually, total side tangent here. We're going to come back to this in a bit. I just want to share this because this happened to me yesterday. I got to be real with you guys. I post on TikTok, as you know, and APOWR. I post on TikTok, and honestly, I created a new account. Let me see if I could share it with you guys, just to show you. I created a new account because I wanted to have an account totally focused purely on vibe coding for the vibe coding community, right? I didn't want to merge it with my main account because on my main account I just talk about all kinds of random stuff like entrepreneur this and that, and you guys know how the algorithm works. Like, you kind of need to focus on one thing. So as a result, what did I do? I basically, I just lying. This week here was the hardest week for me. Well, I've always had hard weeks, but this week here was particularly mentally. I just didn't feel like doing anything. You know, that kind of way where you just don't feel like you're just not motivated to do stuff. And I'm sharing this, guys, with you guys honestly because it's I don't want to show up on these calls and look like every single thing in the world is like right, and I'm always motivated and always thing, because the truth is, like, I have these down days every other couple of days or something. Anyway, long story short is, um, I wanted to post, but I just didn't know what to post about. I didn't feel like posting. And 2 minutes, I kid you not, 2 minutes before I had a meeting with my videographer person that does some of my video editing and stuff like that, I was like, I don't know what to post. I'm just going to do something. And 3 minutes before the call, I just jumped on and I just posted something. And I just did that. And when I did that, it was just one of those, I'm just going to post it for the sake of posting it. And sure enough, that video, this is a brand new account. So I have my main account, by the way. I have my main account for TikTok is Dwayne Brown. Only has like 213. So it has no, like, not a single, not a lot of people. However, I created a brand new account called Dwayne.me. And the reason, again, like I said, is just basically so I could focus on my Cloudflare, my vibe coding, etc. And look at this. The first video I posted, I got 1 view. Second video I posted, I got 4 views. Third video I posted, I got 770 something views. Otherwise than that, I average around 200 to 300 views on average, okay? And then, like, the video that I literally I did it in 3 minutes. I didn't think about it. I just posted it naturally, whatever the case is. In some weird way, this video is now up at 7,000 views. You can't see it on there because it's not showing up for some reason. I don't know why TikTok does that. It's not actually showing the thing. But anyway, you could faintly see it in this corner here. 7,000 views, just randomly. And it was just a reminder to myself that no matter what, you just show up. You just got to show up. Regardless of what's going on, you just got to show up. So I say that to say that the thing is, though, it's not everybody has that personality, right? Like that ability to just kind of just jump on camera, jump on stream, and just basically just show up. But if you can do it, if you're trying to figure out who your audience is, right? For example, this vibe coding community that I'm working on, that I'm building, I kind of know who I'm talking to, right? Entrepreneurs, business owners, etc. But I actually don't know who specifically. I'm still trying to figure that out, right? And so what I've been doing is exactly what I'm doing, kind of building in public. I haven't done any ads as yet. And I'm basically essentially putting people on a waiting list. It's not really a true waiting list, but the point is, you get the idea. So, yeah. So the point is, if you're doing a new product, your ICP, you got a waiting list, you build in public, you do ad messaging. The other way that you could kind of figure out who you're in is just basically just go in the chat rooms. oh my goodness, can't write. CHATROOMS. Okay, jump in the chat rooms and basically just strike up conversations. Message people, in other words, MSG people. Okay, these are the ways that you really can just kind of figure out very fast in a week, maybe 2 weeks at max, who your ICP is. Okay, if you're taking more time than that, then you're doing something wrong. Okay, you should be able to message a bunch of people, message people one-on-one, try to jump on a one-on-one call, right? And just get a list of all the problems. MS, okay? Get a list of all the problems. So that's one way to kind of figure out how to actually build a product altogether, right? The second part of it is if you have a product, you kind of know who. So in other words, you've kind of been through this exercise and you sort of know who is it that you're dealing with. Actually, I should say there's one other thing inside of here because it's just to be complete. I think I'm mostly covering all of them, but there's one other one inside of here, which is which is you were doing the problem, like you had the problem. PROB, right? So you had the problem at your company, right? Or something. So you've talked to enough people because you've been working on this, you've experienced that problem before. So you kind of know that that problem exists and that people would potentially pay for it if you can sort of eliminate it, right? Now, the thing that you always got to keep in mind is that for any problem, doesn't matter what it is, okay? People will only pay for it if you're going to save them save, that's the key word, right? You must be saving something. Let me put it in green. Okay, SAVE. Okay, you got to be saving them something. What are you saving them? You're either saving them time, right? Or you're saving them money. Okay, or both. Or if you're saving them time or you're saving them money, you basically, the other one is you can do the reverse, which is you can, it'll help them to make money, right? You can't make time, but you can make money, right? So you got to really sit down and ask yourself this question: is my product saving somebody time? And if so, how much time? And the next question is, what is the time worth to them? Value, right? What is that time worth it to them? Is it a lawyer that's been charging $200,000-$300,000 a year? Is it a doctor that, is just filled with patients and don't have the time to kind of focus on things? Or is it a developer that's just sort of like bogged down in just a whole bunch of coding problems and can't solve? Like what is the time that you're saving that person? And then the other part is, if it's a business or something like that, they'd be losing money on a specific thing and your solution can kind of drive to solve that problem, right? Is it solving that problem from a financial standpoint, right? So these are the things that you really got to be thinking about. And then obviously the other one is making money, right? Like, is this thing that I'm going to buy going to make me more money? So in other words, is the value of your thing valuable enough that I'm willing to pay for it because I know it's going to make me more money, right? So in other words, I'm going to pay you $10, but the $10 that I give you is going to give me back $100. That's worth it to me, right? Or the $10 that I give you is going to give me back $1,000. Sure, let's do it. So that's kind of the mindset that you need to have. Okay, now that's on the new product side. The other half of that equation is where lead score really shines and where it's worth it. So now we're going to kind of dive into the lead score part of it. I drop off 5 minutes, but I'll be back in an hour or so. Cool, man. Totally fine. Do your thing. As you know, the recordings are always here. I appreciate the fact that you even show up and just say, hey, what's going on? Awesome momentum doing your problem solving is inspiring to watch. Not a problem. I'm happy to hear that you're getting some value out of it. So, all right, let's talk about the solution part of things. Okay, sorry, not the solution part of things. Let's talk about the outreach part of things. Because once you know your ICP, because right, like the only thing that all of this thing up at the top here is, right, is we're really just trying to highlight. We're trying to get to this point here. This. Oh my goodness. Can't use my tools properly. We're trying to get to this. Who is your ICP? The minute you know who your ICP is, the game changes. Okay? So, You know your ICP, your ideal customer profile, right? Matter of fact, let's put it big and bright up at the top here so we could think. It'll drop this down so we can write a little bit more. IDEAL, customer, CUSTOMER, profile, PROFILE, ICP. Okay, so we know you know your ICP. You're 100%. You're like, okay, these people, they want this product. They have this problem. They definitely are willing to pay for it, or at least they're showing signs that they're willing to pay for it. Okay, now your only game is to go find more people, right? So you just got to go find tons more people, and that's a really, really hard thing to do. So what are you going to do next? You're going to, number one, try to figure out where are these people hanging out. ING out, right? Are they on LinkedIn? Right? Are they on Twitter? X, as we call it now. TWITTER, right? /X, right? Maybe they're on Facebook, wherever. You need to figure out where they are. Reddit, REDDIT. By the way, Reddit is a hidden gem. I've just discovered Reddit and I was like, wow. I don't know why I haven't been on this before. Because I'm connecting with people and the conversations are real. It's not fake. It's not a whole bunch of fluff. It's text-based. So I was like, wow, I'm actually really impressed with Reddit. They're hanging out on Reddit. They're hanging out on these social media platforms. So you really, really want to like double down to find where these people are. And then once you do that, your only other game, and I can't stress this enough, your only other game is messaging, right? Is messaging. So MESSINGING, messaging. Okay, I gotta spell out my words, by the way, because I have dyslexia and words are like I spelling is not a thing for me, so I have to like literally think about how to spell a word. Anyway, so with that, your thing is messaging. What are you messaging? What are you saying to these people? You can't tell them, hey, I have a product, and this product has to do whatever. Like you just can't. If you just message somebody and be like, hey, can you check out my tool? It's a really cool tool. They'll be like, yeah, I don't care about your tool. There's like 100 tools out there, right? You have to talk to the problem. Okay, so like I said, you got to talk to the time problem that they're having. Okay, you have to talk to the money problem that they're having because they're losing money, or you have to talk to the fact that they want to make more money and your tool will solve that problem. You have to talk to the problem. You don't talk to the problem, then it's just you're just wasting time. So a good formula for this, and we could jump into more details in this. The goal is not to go super deep into this because we're talking about lead score, but I'm really just trying to give everybody a framework on how you have to be thinking about the business of marketing in order to even get the results that you're going to be looking for, which is to basically build a system that people can use. Like as a technical person, especially, this has been the hardest shift that I had to make mentally in order to kind of like just be able to get to a place where like I know what I have to do, right? Because else you're just like, oh, I have this really cool tool. Why is nobody buying it? They're not buying it because you haven't necessarily talked to them in the language that makes sense to them. So messaging. Let's talk about messaging. You're going to start with a very basic formula. And again, we're going to do more deep dives on this type of stuff. This is really just a very high level to kind of talk about one thing, which is how do you get to lead score? Like how did I get to building a software that focuses on turning leads into sales? That's literally what we're doing here. Okay. So now you know your ICP. So let's say your ICP is, let me find a real example. Let's say your ICP is mom. I don't know. We're gonna say women, moms. Let's go with moms that are looking for side income. Okay, and you have a platform that helps moms with getting side incomes. Something that everybody understands, right? Your messaging is very simple. You need to really dial it down, but it's this is a rough formula. There's other types, but this is a rough formula. It's something like I help, okay, dot, okay, accomplishment, CCOMPLISH, oh my goodness, MENT, I help, blah, 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 accomplishment, so it's accomplishment, I don't know how, I'm kind of mixing this up. I help XYZ with whatever accomplishment it is, okay? And then it's going to be by, so it's going to be two things. It's going to be by, and then it's going to be the how, HOW, or it's going to be without, 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 dot, which is the how. Okay, let me explain what I mean. So we're going with the mom example, right? So we're going to say something like, I help moms, let's put it in a different color, right? Accomplishment is financial freedom, let's just say, right? FINANCIL. This is very vague, but it's just to give you an example, right? I help moms. No, let's just, instead of financial freedom, it's too vague. Let's just do something like build profitable, PROFITABLE, side income, INCOME. Okay, so I help moms with profitable side income businesses, right? Businesses, BIZ. Okay, by or we could say let's go with let's go with by, and we're just going to say by teaching them e-commerce platform, something like that. I'm just kind of butchering this right now, but I just want to give you the concept, right? Obviously have to think about this a little bit more, but I just want to give you the concept by teaching them how to build an online business or e-commerce business. Okay, so I help moms, right, build profitable side income. This is very long-winded. It has to be distilled a little bit more, but it's just to drive home the point. I help moms do, right? So this is like the who, WHO, right? This is the what, right? And then this is the how, okay? Or you could do the without, which is the negative, right? Without spending more time, as an example, right? TIME, right? So you can kind of go in both directions. This is a rough formula. Like you'd have to clean it up a little bit more. It's just to give you an idea. But the goal is, actually, you know what? Let's just do this. ChatGPT is good about understanding handwriting. Oh my goodness, I closed it. Okay. Understanding handwriting. Let's just do this. So let's take this entire thing, drop it into ChatGPT and get some variations, which would be much better than what I could come up with on the fly on a live stream. So let's go to ChatGPT. Let's go here and let's just say, I'm trying to build an ICP messaging to figure out like who my target audience is. And I'm trying to come up with a more streamlined message. So I have right now, I help moms with accomplishment by doing XYZ. Can you help me to get some variations of it? Basically, I want to help moms with an online business, e-commerce business, where they could basically do like a side hustle and make money. Give me some variations of this with this rough formula that you see in this image. Okay. Right. So it's going to take this and it's going to give me some proper, more streamlined thing. This way I could just kind of, give a proper formula with an example. But all in all, don't get too hung up on the messaging. Get hung up on the concept that I'm trying to say. You're right. I help achieve XYZ by without variation, right? Aims at, so here, I help busy moms, right? Who you're helping? Busy moms build a small online business by setting simple offers plus checkout with, okay, this is really thing, right? But you get the idea. I help moms start an e-commerce side hustle by launching products the easy way without holding inventory, right? So it's this sort of very subtle thing. You have to really, really, really dial in your ICP. You have to dial in your ICP, because if you don't understand who it is that you're talking to specifically, then you don't know how to message them. If you don't know how to message them, then you got a big problem on your hands. Okay, so that's kind of the mission, that's kind of the goal here. All right, so once you kind of do that, and you have very, very clear, right? All we're trying to do here is just figure out our ICP, right? Now you have some clear understanding of who your ICP is, okay? And then you figured out where they're sitting. So maybe these moms are on Facebook Market, Facebook groups, right? ICE book groups, GROUPS. Maybe these moms are in Facebook groups. If these moms are in Facebook groups, then your simple thing is you go find every single one of those groups, right? Find all, and I mean all. However long it takes, find every single one of them. Okay. Now maybe you won't start with all. You might start with 10, right? Find the top 10 ones that seems like a thing, and then you start doing exactly that. You start messaging people. MESSINGING. You start messaging people, right? If you can get their email, you start emailing them. Okay, so telling them about the thing. So now you're gonna take this. Let's just go with reliable side income online by turning skills into paid offer without quitting their job. Let's go with mom's e-commerce site, the easy way without holding inventory. Let's go with this one as an example. Now we're going to say, can you turn this into a Facebook message and turn this into an email message and turn this into an Instagram message so I could start messaging people? Just give me a template that I can work with. Okay, so assuming that these people are in groups or they're already talking about these problems. Okay, so once you go find these people, now you're going to basically try to come up with a message very, very tailored to that particular person, right? So this is ChatGPT's version. Again, this is just to give you an idea. Like, don't take this and copy it as it is, right? Hey, name, I saw your post comment about XYZ situation. The situation will be the very specific problem that is relevant to what you're trying to think. Quick question. Are you trying to start something like Etsy shopping or whatever, more services? I'm working on a simple mom-friendly approach to help you get your first sale without inventory or whatever. So you're talking directly to the problem, right? Hope this isn't random. I'm reaching out to a few moms who mentioned wanting extra side income from home, right? Because you saw them on some message. Are you trying to do the side hustle, blah, 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 right? You get the idea. The point is, the message now becomes extremely hyper specific and extremely hyper tailored because you figured out who is it that you're talking to. Okay, and now you can start messaging them. Now, when you start messaging these people, let's say that you got 10. Okay, so I'm just going to put 10 moms, right? 10 moms. Okay, let's say you start messaging these 10 moms. Then maybe, these are just random numbers, they don't take them with any single thing. You might only get, out of those 10 moms, you might only get one reply, right? And let's just say, for the sake of argument of this conversation, actually let's just do one reply, one positive, right? POSITIVE, right? One positive reply. In other words, they're saying, yeah, let's have a conversation. Your only goal at that particular point is to try and get a meeting or try and book a one-on-one call, okay, with that person. Now, that is the basics and that is the foundation of your goal. You do this manually. I want to stress this enough. You do this manually. The tool that I'm building, which is Lead Score AI, is not for this type of messaging. It's really just so that the tool that I'm building is not for this type of outreach. The goal here is you do this manually just so you can figure out what's working. The minute you have something that's working, you start to scale this up. The minute you get one reply, so let's pretend for a second, it's not 100% true, but let's pretend that for every 10 people that you message, you'll get one positive reply. Then your only mission is to start scaling. So you will know very quickly that if I do one and I get that, therefore if I do 10 right? Oh, sorry, 100, I'm going to get 10 replies. Now, if I do 1,000, you know where I'm going with this, right? I'm going to get 100 replies. And you just keep scaling that, okay? That's the hardest part of the game. Now, when you start to do that, you're going to run into a problem, which is somebody might reply today, right? Say they're interested. You're going to then reply to them with something, and then you don't hear from them for like a month, let's just say, because they went on vacation or something. Okay. And then maybe you send them another message again, and then they replied, and then 2 weeks later you don't hear from them, and it just keeps going on, this back and forth kind of deal. Or you might just reply to them and they might jump on a call with you and then they talk with you right away, right? The point is, with any conversation, there's always a lag between sort of the time that you message them and the time that they're actually willing to jump on a call with you or message. That lag might be a couple of days, or it might be weeks, or it might be months, right? If you're dealing with enterprise level customers, it's like 6 months or something like that, right? If you're dealing with like, consumer, might be a little bit different. So the point is, it varies depending on the market, etc., which is outside the scope of this conversation. But your only goal is to do this. And then when you do that, if you have enough volume, then you're going to start to run into a problem, which is, how do I know if you have more people responding and they're all in different stages? How do I keep track of it? The traditional way is to keep track of it with a CRM. Okay? That's the traditional way. Keep track of it with a CRM. However, the problem with a CRM is you kind of have to still manually do this shift over and over again. What we're doing, or at least what the goal is with Lead Score, is LEADSCORE, is you can basically attach a score to this individual. So you could say if they responded to you, they get 10 points. If they have a website, they get 10 points. If they have an email, they get 10 points. If they respond negatively to you, then you minus 10 points. So this would be plus, plus, plus. This is minus 10 points, just as an example. And the system scores it. That scoring is what happens when you get a scale. Because if you try to do one sales guy to one, and this is the number, this is where Lead Score kind of really sort of focuses on, to 100,000 leads. Do I have that right? 100,000, yes. To 100,000 leads, now you start to run into a problem. Okay? And Lead Score is kind of designed to kind of do this at that kind of scale. That's what it's designed for. That's what the mission is. That's what the goal is. So that's a long-winded background context of the problem, of how you need to be thinking about your ICP, and when in your journey you're going to kind of run into this, problem, right? So most of the people that are in this Vibe Coding community in here right now, by the way, we got members all over the place, which I'm pretty proud of. We're slowly getting people from, we got people in Canada, we got people in Vancouver, we got people in Toronto, we got people in Ottawa, we got people in somewhere in, I don't know what a state that is, but the United States, Texas, New York, Halifax, we got people in France, we got people like, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that I'm talking to a whole bunch of people around the world. I have no idea who you are and where you're thinking, but I'm just proud of the fact that we're slowly building up our community, slowly building up our thing. So if you haven't joined the community, join the community. It's one of the best things that I've personally done for myself, and we're slowly getting people that are thing. I'm proud of this guy. I really am. Sam. He's built a AI consultant and sales expert. 12 years marketing turned into sales. I really need to spend more time with you, Sam. If you're ever watching this in the future, we need to jump on a call. I really want to spend some more time with you. In fact, I really want to record a video about this project that you built, and then and publish it on the channel, so that at least everybody can kind of see that if you just spend the time and you spend the thing, you know, hopefully these videos are bringing value. So yeah. But anyway, I'm not trying to promote this. I was just really just kind of talk about the people. But my point is, the people in here, you're kind of here, right? Most of you are sitting in this realm here. You're not at that level where, you know, you figured out your ICP and all that kind of stuff. You're just kind of at this level. So you need to be focusing on waiting lists, building in public, messaging people, finding chat rooms, one-on-one messages, right? Like this is where you need to be spending your time, because it's a brand new product and you're really just trying to figure out who is it that you actually focus on selling to. Okay. So yeah, so with that, jumping back to the actual problems that we have on LeadScore. LeadScore has a couple of issues. Number one is we got a bug right now where, because you're dealing with large volumes of data, right? This system is running on Cosmo DB in the background. And this tagging system here, which seems very simple on the surface, is actually a pretty complex system. Because what it has to do, it has to figure out, he's working here, interestingly enough. Horse ice cream. What did I filter on? Horse and Instagram. So it's that's interesting. Instagram. No, there's nobody with Instagram, but it's people with horse. Here, ice cream, horse. Let's do. So interestingly enough, it seems to be working on one account, but it's not working on the other account, pig. Yeah, it is working. Huh, interesting. That's weird. It's weird. The filter wasn't working before, and I was trying to figure out why it's not working and what's going on here. Okay, let's talk a little bit more on the deep end of what's going on here, because we're not here to just talk about the high level thing. We're talking about the business side of it as well too. So what am I using on the back end? I'm using some heavy stuff, and this is where my .NET skills kind of come into play. Cosmo DB. We're using, okay, I have to be very careful here, because this has live, does it? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, it's using Cosmos DB. So I'm going to say this is where the big boys come to play. What do I mean by that? So most people are kind of intimidated by Cosmo DB. This is an Azure world, by the way. And for a couple of reasons, I'll show you what it looks like, but I'm just trying to find information that I can't, like I can share with it that is not any kind of breach of anything. So yeah, here. Yeah. Okay. So this is just an example, just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. Off the covers. Yeah, and then let's do this. Just 1 second. And yeah, that's fine. Oops, one more thing. There we go. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so this is what Cosmo DB looks like. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Oh, I keep forgetting to do this every single time. I forgot to change the resolution on this window here. Sorry, guys. Right, so this is what Cosmo DB looks like. And what it is it's basically a NoSQL database. So MongoDB is your closest competitor. In fact, it has a one-to-one mapping with MongoDB, right, to store data, alter it. So this is what I'm using to store the data for the back end of the lead score application, of this application here. And one of the primary reasons I'm using lead score altogether is, sorry, Cosmo DB. Number one is the scale is just unbelievable, right? Cosmo DB can scale like there's nobody's business. It's just a phenomenal database from that perspective. And just fun fact for you, ChatGPT, the entire ChatGPT, all of this stuff here, every single thing here is running on Cosmo DB on the back end. So it scales. Let's just say that it scales. They did a couple deep dive on it on Azure. Then I looked at that shows Cosmo DB. So that's why. Well, first of all, that's not the reason why I use Cosmo DB. I've been using Cosmo DB for years now, but it was just kind of cool to see ChatGPT, a famous consumer front end app, using Cosmo DB in the back end and showing some of the scaling things. I'll mention two things about Cosmo DB just because it's kind of relevant to what we're doing. So you could call Cosmo DB MongoDB. In fact, I'm going to put Mongo up here. MongoDB. Okay. /COSMODB. Okay. So they're about the same. They're not 100%, but they're about the same. There's two reasons why I love Cosmo DB or MongoDB. Number one is it's NoSQL. Okay, what does that even mean? It means that there's no tables, which means I don't have to predefine the schemas. That's number one. So that's a really big deal. More importantly, though, it not only does it scale, it has the ability to what I would describe as it's not even what I describe. It's literally it's in a thing. So it has support horizontal scale, HORIZONTALSCALE. These are all fancy terms. I'll explain what they mean in a bit. So it does horizontal scaling really, really well. And the other thing, which I don't really use because it's expensive, it has multi-read and multi-write. ULTI read. Okay. So even though I use, Cloudflare, and even though I use D1 database, D1 has a 10 gigabyte limit, GB. If you're hitting more than that, you're gonna have to go to something like Torso or one of those platforms if you're from the consumer side. But for my use case, the scale at which I'm trying to push this application is basically I want to be able to have even for me, for my own personal use, one company will have something like 1 million records inside of there, plus 1 million plus records, right? For us, and like I said, one company, 100,000 salespeople. So if you have 100,000, if you have like 10 salespeople, you're already talking 1 million records already. And then that's not including all of the activities that happen. So you really need a super scalable database, and Cosmo DB does that in so many ways really, really, really well. Plus, it gives you the flexibility of doing, SQL-like syntax for queries and stuff like that. So it's really cool. AWS comparison, by the way, would be like DynamoDB. I haven't used DynamoDB to any real significance. However, I've come to the conclusion that there's my understanding is there's a couple of little issues with how it's set up because it's more like a KV than a thing. I might be wrong about that. In fact, I'm actually kind of curious about it. Let's just do it right now. What's the primary difference between Cosmo DB and DynoDB? I know there's some differences with how DynoDB in AWS world thing, and I think probably because there's a key KV pair. Now it still operates like MongoDB, but there's some fundamental differences which I'm not 100% familiar with, but I'm curious. Let's just wait and see that. In the meantime, we're gonna. Okay, while that's generating, let me see. You gonna think today, or we're at 5.2 now? Okay, I'm taking a while. Anyway, point is this. Cosmo DB comes with a lot of capabilities. So for me, one of the concepts that Cosmo DB has is concept of partitions. T-I-T-I-O-N-S. This is for my geeks. This is for my technical people. This is not for the business people and this kind of stuff. Now we're into the weeds on the technical side of things, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper today. So partitions. What are partitions? A partition is just a way for the application to kind of split the data up. So it kind of needs to know, Cosmo DB needs to know what record okay, so let's say you have a user, okay, in a database. In a traditional database, you would have like a user ID, UID, and it would be a number. In Cosmo DB, that UID would be a GUID, G-U-I-D. And the reason for that is that GUID would be generic, and if your partition key is based off of that user ID property or that GUID, it allows Cosmo DB whenever the data comes in. So let's say that you send data from your application. This is your app. You send data to Cosmo DB. Cosmo DB will send that data to. It has multiple, obviously, computers in the background, and it'll send it to one of that computer, depending on the data. And then when the next record comes in, it'll send it to the other computer. So what you want is what they call high cardinality, which means to spread the data across multiple different computers. Let's see, poor man's version of a definition of cardinality, right? So that's kind of what it's doing under the hood. Now, you can do a partition by a tenant, which basically means the company ID, right? And if you do it on a tenant ID or company ID level, the way how I would describe it is that it would have all of the same company information on one computer. Now, this is really, really important because when you're doing reading, right, if the application has to go and it has to go to every single different computer to find a record, it gets really expensive because Cosmo DB charge for what they call RU, which means they basically charge for read and writes. But if the tenant ID and all the data is on one record, one computer, it's super simple to return that record. So you really have to kind of shift your way of thinking from a traditional traditional SQL database way to a NoSQL way by understanding what partitions are. So you can structure the data in the right segmentation. Can we get a chart of this? Can we get a chart of this information so I could see it better? Too much reading. Right. So going back to this particular case, the way how I have lead score set up is it's set up to have a partition that's based off of a combination of things, which is basically the user and the tenant. So in this particular case, as an example, you see it has a really long ID because it's part tenant ID, part user ID. User ID is based off a number of things to make it guaranteed to be unique. It's not 100% foolproof, but it's supposed to be guaranteed to be unique. So there can only be one record in the system for this particular customer, for this particular tenant. And then from there, it kind of allows us to print it out. So what is the primary angle? Okay, so here we got it. DynoDB versus CosmoDB. A lot of people use DynoDB. So DynoDB is serverless, fully managed key value, plus document SQL, right? Whereas CosmoDB is globally distributed platform with multiple API models. CosmoDB chose API, so NoSQL, MongoDB, Postgres, Cassandra, Gemini, Table. Like it has multiple different API endpoints, whereas they only have, a single endpoint. So in other words, you could move from Cassandra to CosmoDB, or you could move from MongoDB to CosmoDB. Multi-region by global tables. So multi-region replication. 5 consistency levels. Eventual consistency by default, optional strong consistency for some operations with limitations. So RU units, on demand and provision capacity. This is where CosmoDB shines because RU. You can have a really small system, a really small database, use it for a bit, and then scale up. It's one of my favorite databases. It truly, truly is one of my most favorite databases. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't talk about it a lot because I shouldn't say this channel that I'm building is not really, it's not relevant to it. It is because I have some .NET people on it. But it's not the thing that I focus on the most. Whereas with DynoDB has some advantages for sure. It's really good. But I feel, from my opinion, is that because Microsoft was kind of late to the game, and they kind of took all the learnings from DynoDB and they made a better database system. Let me see. I'm using MongoDB for a company e-commerce site, but I still don't find the value of using MongoDB versus SQL Server. Maybe I still don't understand the power of MongoDB. I see. So I have news for you. I find it hard to understand how to do reporting part because I use SSR. So, okay. I actually understand your problem. I actually know your problem, Ramon. So here is the problem. Okay. It's simple. If you are looking to do reporting and you're looking to do traditional reports, SQL databases win all day long every time. Like it's not a comparison. It's just not, I want to stress this. There's no comparison. Here's what happened. We kind of got to a place where in the early days, when MongoDB came out and revolutionized this idea of NoSQL, everybody were like, oh, MongoDB is the new cool thing. We should all build all of our workloads in NoSQL. And then you recognize that actually MongoDB has some real significant limitations, especially if you're doing traditional type of like RD, relational database type stuff, joins and this type of stuff. It is a nightmare to deal with. But the hype train is a real thing, just like AI hype is a real thing. And then everybody just rushes towards it and this becomes the new standard. And then next thing you know, you end up in a position where it's like, oh, but hang on a second. SQL was doing this before. Like, why are we doing this NoSQL thing? I got you. That's literally a problem. It's been the thing that I've been thinking about the most. In fact, I have Postgres on one side, I have CosmoDB on the other side, and they live side by side. And any single time I'm making a decision about when I'm building an application, I make a decision. Is this a relational type of thing? Or is this a CosmoDB type of stuff? Okay, so now let's talk about the actual, like, why CosmoDB matter, or CosmoDB, MongoDB, same difference, right? NoSQL. What's the real difference? The difference is, if you're building a dynamic type application. Here's where I say we, as in like us .NET people, where we just run into a trap, which is because .NET is strongly typed, it's actually more work to deal with the nuances of Cosmo DB or MongoDB in your particular case than a traditional type of, well, I should say it's traditional, but like a Node.js application, etc. And this was the thing that kind of tripped me up for a really long time, because what was happening is I was trying to build strongly typed applications, like .NET applications, using Cosmo DB as my backend. And I kept running into these issues because I was like, I feel like I could just do this in SQL world. Like this just seems like more work, translating the NoSQL to then type system to then bring it out kind of deal. However, when I transitioned to using things like Node or Hono in Cloudflare world, it just made sense all of a sudden. All of a sudden, the freedom of dynamic structure, the freedom of having a NoSQL database, the freedom of knowing that my schema doesn't necessarily have to match up perfectly one-on-one to the code that I'm writing because it's evolving, suddenly makes a lot of sense. So it really becomes this balancing thing. If you're doing SSR and Power BI things, you have a ton of problems that you won't be able to solve with MongoDB in a simple way. That's the truth. That's 100% truth. What you're going to end up having to do is do things like materialized view, if you're familiar with that concept, right? Which is you have the data, you dump it into MongoDB, and then you have some kind of background service. Let me just draw it out because it's kind of irrelevant. So let's say that this is your MongoDB here, right? Let's say you got some data. Where is it? No. Here. So let's say this is your MongoDB database, right? And you got your application. Your application is sending data. Let's say you got some up here, and it's sending data to your MongoDB, right? NoSQL. Okay. If you just have your SSR kind of pulling data directly from there, so I'm trying to do Power BI. Oops. POWER BI. You're just going to end up in a whole bunch of problems because it wasn't necessarily built to do that properly. And it's slow and it's clunky and it actually will cost a lot more because there's a cost attached to it. If you're using Cosmo DB, there is. And I can't say too much about MongoDB because you could pre-provision the stuff. What you need to do is, instead of doing it like that, what you have to do is you basically have to have a service that basically reacts on triggers, TRIGGERS, right? And then basically do materialize view, MATERALIZE view. In other words, you're every single time somebody does an update here and saves it to the data, you're gonna run a background service that's gonna pick up that record and then basically do like it's a count, or maybe it's a summary, or maybe it's an average, or whatever it is. It's gonna read all the data in, compute the value in code, and then basically spit it out to either an RD, a relational type table, or, and if you're dealing with lots of data, big data, like one of those big data type of tables, but basically an RDP table. Am I saying that right? RDP, not RDP. I'm mixing up a term. Relational database, RDS, right? So you basically put it into a relational database, and then your BI, your Power BI, POWER BI, pulls from this, and then you have something that can work really well. If you do it the other way, you actually run into a real problem where it's like it becomes very, very clunky because you have to write a lot of code in code to kind of like pull out from the NoSQL, transform it, and then shove it out into the SSR, the BI world kind of deal. So this is a legit problem, and the truth is like it's because people kind of like shifted too far the other way. All right, so it's a balancing act. That being said, though, I'll give you a use case where NoSQL really, really shines. A real world use case, because it'll help you out. So here I have my SnapSuite application. Okay. This is all relationship all day long because it's basically a glorified CRM / project management tool, right? It has a whole bunch of clients inside of here. This is all dummy data, by the way. If I click edit, it has a work order, right? I can email a client. I could, print a document. I could do all this kind of standard stuff that's just a CRM type system. There's times when customers would come to us and they want see these fields here, these properties. They want very specific set of properties. So they might be looking for, okay, let's just say that they're looking for a field that keeps track of, I don't know, some sort of calculation or something far more beyond our system that our system has inside. So in other words, we have these standardized fields and they're looking for something else. That's where a NoSQL database comes in, and that's where NoSQL really shine. So what you can do is you can have a custom NoSQL statement for each record in this application. So I'm kind of confusing you, but let me try to see if I could explain it. So it's like this. So let's say this is your table. Okay, so let's say this is your relational table, right? So let's say relational. Let's say relational database. Use the wrong color, the worst color, TABLE. Use the wrong, just completely stupid color. Okay, so let's say this, okay? So this is a relational table. And it has, obviously columns, etc., right? And let's just say that it's a customer table. Okay, you could have a user ID, first name, last name, email address, etc. And then what you would have is like a let's say a MongoDB ID as an example, and that would be like a GUID, and that GUID would link to a MongoDB database, right? Which would have a custom JSON for that specific customer, right? And that JSON could be anything, which means you can have it independent of your customer real database. And that's kind of this is where a MongoDB or CosmoDB really shines. Now, the truth is the relational databases are getting caught up because now in relational database, in Azure SQL database, if you're using that, you could actually just store JSON inside of here. And it's actually really fast now because now you could query the JSON and do all that kind of stuff. So this kind of way of doing things is now depreciating. But let's just say that you had to add, for every one record, you had to have 20 or 30 different SQL or JSON records, right? A NoSQL database would still make sense in that regards. And you would just basically have a reference to that database where it has all the different NoSQL type of stuff. And still applies. You would still do the aggregation here, right? You might pull some details from here, and then you would basically push it into a materialized view, right? Because the customer can ask for specifics. Let me see. So sorry, let me see. I'm getting you kind of a problem. RDMS is a pain. It is, yeah, because it will get into trouble because customers can ask for a very specific field. That's correct. Yes, that's exactly it. So so I will get lots of tables per solution or whatever. Yes, 100%. Yeah, JSON came over to RDBase. Yes, so that's exactly it. JSON came to save the RDS. That's 100% right? There's still use cases where NoSQL will still work better, and now that's when you start to have to get into like one record and there's tons of tables that is still relevant, right? Because you don't want to pack all of that information into one column. Maybe you can have multiple columns and store those multiple JSON, but now you're not really optimizing your RDS database, right? So there's still some ways that it makes sense, because what you could do as an example is you would pull up this data, which is a NoSQL. See here, this is just a basic ID in the system. And then you would click like something like, I don't know, stats or something like that. And this would basically pull up your NoSQL data from your database, right? And if you do it that way, it's actually extremely efficient and it's extremely cheap, which is something that, most people don't really think about, because when you know the exact ID because of partition and all this kind of stuff, it'll just pull that one record. So that's kind of the reason why you would want to do it. But I hear you. The worlds are kind of merging now. So you're 100% right with this statement here. The worlds are kind of merging. And so as a result, there's kind of a blurred lines. But personally, I wouldn't put a lot of NoSQL in an RDMS database, RDB database, or RDS database, whatever you want to call it. For the very reason that you're kind of bloating a lot of the tables, right? And there's still a performance hit to doing that, right? Like it might need to be a big thing, but if you're dealing with millions or even billions of rows, there might be a performance hit. And NoSQL is designed to kind of handle this sort of like change in schema, all right? Let me hear you. Sorry to ask. I wanted to understand you. In your case, your app is multi-tenant. So how do you deal with customers asking for specific fields on the same module? It's a very good question. You don't be sorry to ask the question. Like, I'm 100% willing to ask it. Yeah, I understand exactly where your question is. So customer A, customer B. Yeah. So okay, so it's like this. This is a deeper dive conversation, so I'm happy to jump any which way in any format. It doesn't really matter. And this is the benefit about showing up live. You get to control how the video goes. So yeah, no, it's a very, very valid question. It's a very technical question, but it's a relevant one. So to answer your question, it's like this. You got customer A, which is how you describe it, right? And then you got customer B, right? They both are using the same application in my particular case. So they're both using the same. So and this. By the way, just to be clear, I want to make one. Actually, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to give you a little bit of history lesson so you can understand the thing. There's two ways to solve this problem. There's multiple ways, but we're going to go with the two very specific ways. The easy, basic thing to do if you don't have a lot of customers is you basically give each of them their own database. That's the simplest, easiest thing to do. You give customer A its own database. You give customer B its own database. And then you kind of, use your application to kind of glue them together. So you dynamically swap in between databases, and depending on the customer, you do it. This is a nightmare. I just want to be clear with this. This is a nightmare, but it is a solution if you're just starting out and you're just trying to because this is what we did at the start. The problem with this method is that you end up with a nightmare when you have to do deployments to every database. So you end up with, all the databases might have all the different tables, but some of them are not being used depending on the customer. The good part about it is that you get pure isolation. So even if you need to branch off and make like an extra special code to kind of do some very specific thing to the database, you can kind of do it. But it's a nightmare. I just want to be clear with this. I'm not recommending this at all. I just want to say that it is an option because traditionally that was a thing that people did. The new world is you don't do that. You have all of your customers in a single table, which, by the way, that application I just showed you, we just only did it this year because we had that traditional way of doing things before. And you have all your customers in the same table. Okay. So now you're going to have merged data. The question is, how do you separate them? The first thing is you need a tenant ID, right? Or a customer ID or whatever you want to call it, right? TENANT-ID, right? For each, right? TENANT-ID, right? So each will have their own GUID ID, let's call it ABC123, right? And then it's like, XYZ, 5, 6, 7 or something like that, right? So a separator. And so ABC123 would be in the table, the columns for each one of those column. And then and then XYZ will be in the columns for each one of those. And that's how you would kind of be able to keep the data in thing. And then obviously from a security standpoint, from an authentication standpoint, when they authenticate, the authentication would know which tenant it is, and then it basically filter. You would have some, some specific filter logic here to make sure that there's no crossing of data. So that's the basics. Coming to your question now, which is, well, how do you deal with the customization part of it? And this is where NoSQL really, really shines. This is why I'm suggesting that you do not put the NoSQL data in an RDS database. Sorry. Sorry. So what do? You got a couple things. So let's say customer A comes to you, and customer A needs, let's say in the same module. So let's say we're dealing with, let's go with the customer table, because it's just, let's say each of them is a CRM, right? So each of them has CRM. So all of them, they're keeping customer users information. But for whatever reason, customer A wants like a bunch of custom fields that are completely different from custom B, which is the question that you're asking. So the way how you do it, NoSQL solves this beautifully. In a NoSQL, what you would do is you would have a NoSQL database. So let's put it in, I don't know, let's find another color. Let's find another color for a NoSQL database. So you'd have your NoSQL database out here. Okay, your NoSQL would have a reference to all the tenants, right? So TENANTS. The NoSQL would have, for each tenant, it would have some sort of config table, FIG. Okay, that config table would basically hold in it, let's call it the list of all of the custom fields. Okay. Right? And then those custom fields, you would have another table inside of here with the, let's call it just data. Okay. And the data would have those custom fields, and it would basically store the actual JSON itself. Okay. So what would happen is company A could log into the system and customize all of the different fields, add fields, use field, whatever it is. That customization would sit inside of the NoSQL config, because it's a changeable, it's basically just JSON, right? It's just JSON. You could say, property A is a text box with property B, is a drop down. These are the options, however you store that JSON, right? So you'd have it inside of there. And same thing for company B, they would have their own config, and they would kind of do that. And it's basically just sitting in the JSON. This allows you to have independent structure in the config per row, right? Because each customer has a different requirements. And then whenever the user logs into the system, and you figured out that authentication validates that, oh, this is customer tenant XYZ, it's gonna now, your code has to now make a separate call to the config, and then it's gonna pull that config in, and then it's gonna figure out, okay, for this config, right, this is the shape of the data, and therefore I need to go to this record. That record will be matched up with this particular row. So for each row, you're going to go pull the custom config fields from it and then basically load it, right? Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if I was kind of clear on that, but the point is that NoSQL data structure shines really, really well for this type of stuff. This way you don't have to have things. Now, to add a little bit more, just to add a little bit more color to this conversation, you don't want a case where every single time you load, you're loading, ABC record, that you're also going and pull the config and all that kind of stuff. You're just going to hit the performance issue. So a way to solve that would be exactly what I'm doing in this particular case, right? Like you open up a work order in my particular case, right? I'm on a row. When I click on that row, it's only loading relational data. And then if I click on, let's say this tab, just as an example, right? Like I click on this tab, then that tab will basically load in that config specific for this particular customer, specific for that particular row of data, right? So it's then going to make a separate call And when it makes a separate call, it's going to go load that config, and it's going to load that data for that specific row, right? And obviously this is where your C#/JSON is going to make that transformation. But just the caveat is that I personally find that in .NET, this dynamic sort of configuration structure gets really hard to manage because of tightly coupling with types, right? It becomes sort of thing. Now you could obviously make a structure, a JSON structure that could deal with this config properly, and it could be type safe. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I actually personally, I find that JSON and the JavaScript world is more suited for this type of flexibility, because you could kind of do things on the fly a little better. And if a specific field is not there because the config is changed, JSON would just ignore the property, whereas .NET would just kind of blow up in your face, right? Like there's kind of stuff. Hopefully that makes some sense. Hopefully I answer your question. But it's a great question, because it's one of those things that it's like, it gets a little tricky, especially when customers keep coming for you and asking for more stuff over and over time, right? Yeah, and in the past, I'm sure you've experienced this before. You just end up adding more fields to the column, right? So yes, you only load the config when you need it. And generally speaking, the way to solve that problem, like I said, is with a tab, right? So you load your relational data, and then you have like a tab UI where you just basically, when you click on that tab, then you load in that config, and basically you load that specific data. But yeah, that's how you would basically do it, right? So yeah, anyway, I'm happy that you answered that question, because it's a great question, and it's a deep question, because it takes a little bit of sort of a way you have to kind of think through the details. What is it that the customer is asking for? Where I think with the real questions that you start to have to deal with here is things like, do you have one config per module, or do you have like can you merge these config where you have like a global config for the entire system, and then you kind of like, in the data, you would basically say what type of data it is. So you would say that this is a customer data versus this is a sales data versus right? But that's basically how you would kind of deal with it, all right? But yeah, great question. Thank you for asking. It's one of those things where it's like, it's not immediately obvious. Yeah. So anyway, where were we? Lead score. So yeah, no, I'm happy that you asked the question. Thanks. So yeah, so I'm trying to do some technical stuff here. We'll see how it goes. I'm happy that you asked that question. I'm happy that people are asking questions, for that matter. So what do we do next here? Let's back up a bit and see if I got any sort of thing. So we did the Y lead score. Let me just see, because I'm kind of working on the fly here today. Right, so we did the lead score, we did the review, we did the trigger, we did the update, we did the SMS, we did the product ICP. Like I said, just to recap, if you're building a brand new product, your first goal is to figure out who your ICP is. Ramon, definitely for you, which, by the way, you still got to book a call with me so we can sit down and kind of talk about your specific business. I really want to do that. I don't know if the holidays is going to kind of, mess up our plans, but if not over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be taking some time off, by the way, not on my videos, but just on personal level. So I'm going to block off. My calendar is going to be more blocked off. But if you feel free to book a call, I might still do the Friday ones. I might do a couple of Friday calls. But anyway, we'll figure that out. If not in the new year, for sure. But in either way, if you're new, well, as we said before, ICP, super important, ideal customer profile, build a waiting list, try to build in public, do some ads, message people, go to chat rooms, see who's online, message people, right? If you have a company, this is kind of like side note here, but if you have corporations that you've been working with previously because you were working with this problem, just reach out to them and see if they're interested in just kind of working with you to figure out how to solve the problem. Because at the end of the day, what you're really trying to do is trying to get the feedback. You're trying to do a one-on-one with these people. You're trying to get the feedback, because the feedback is super important, right? And as mentioned, we're just recapping here, but just a recap for the people that kind of coming online. Your only goal is to try to save somebody time or save them money or make them money. That's it. Those are the only things that you can do, right? Like if it's a billionaire, you're probably trying to save them time. Why? Because they already have money. No, they might want to make more money. That's a different conversation, but you're probably not the person to help them with that. Or maybe you are, I don't know. But my point is you're probably focusing on time, right? If they're a business person and it's a sort of a mid-level business, you're probably trying to save them money, right? Because they're just some things are costing them more, so you have a solution that could save them more. Or if it's sort of a mid-sized business, you're probably trying to show them how to make more money, right? Small business or whatever it is. So you got to kind of think about that camp in itself. And then we talked about once you got your ideal customer profile, we talked about figuring out where they're hanging out, right? Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. You got to message them. You got to come up with sort of your messaging. We talked about that. And then we start jumping into some of the more technical stuff of MongoDB, etc., and how we're basically why I choose CosmoDB. I got a problem with the project I wanted to build. When I started looking for the requirements, it needs some kind of approval from the government, and to sell my product to the customers, I need to. So in other words, what you're saying is you got a certification barrier. Right? Is that fair? So let me see. So I need to be a company established with my own product and 3 customers with it. So as a SaaS, I found my project won't be a good one. Well, okay. So let's think about this for a second. What you're basically saying is there's a barrier. And the barrier is that you need to already be established, and then you need to get a certification from the government, right? Here's a question for you. So as a SaaS, I found my project won't be a good one. Yeah. So the real question is, can you find 3 potential customers that like? This is a brand new program, right? So there's 2 things that are happening that I could say on this. There's a term that's called regulatory capture. It's not really a complicated term, but I'll explain what I mean by it in a second. There's a term that's called regulatory capture, which might be the case that you're describing, or it might just be that the government is new and they're sort of trying to filter out only the big companies. Both of that, it might be a merger of 2. So let's talk about regulatory capture. What is regulatory capture? Regulatory capture means that OpenAI is doing, like all the companies in North America does this type of stuff. Here's what these guys do, okay? OpenAI as an example, Anthropic as an example, okay? Brilliant companies, successful in the right of like so many people are looking towards them as the leaders, and they have tons of users in the market. So what do? They know that other companies will start competing with them pretty soon. Okay? So because they know that, what they're going to do is they're going to try to block the competition. And they're going to do it in 2 ways. They're going to try to just keep moving really, really fast with their product. That's number 1. But number 2 is they're going to go to the regulatory government, right? The officials, the lawmakers, etc., and basically bribe their way. There's no other word to describe it. They're going to bribe their way. They're going to pay money. They're going to lobby. That's the official sort of legal term for it. They're going to lobby the government and convince the government that they need to make a certain set of rules to guide and protect the quality of AI, as an example. And essentially what they end up doing is they get the lawmakers by sponsoring these lawmakers, etc. The lawmakers need money. They get the lawmakers to create these laws to be in favor of them, in other words, OpenAI or Anthropic. However, everybody else it blocks out, right? So it makes it hard for you as a startup to compete with OpenAI because suddenly you have to do this regulatory thing in order to get approval to even start competing, if you get what I mean. So you might be describing that, which is I'm not certain if that's the case. Okay. The other thing that you might be describing is, which I think is more likely to your case, because I don't know how sophisticated Dominican Republic is, but you can tell me more. The other thing that you might be describing is the government has decided that they don't, for these whatever startup is, for this problem that you're trying to solve, is that they don't want to deal with like small companies like mom and pop shop, aka you as a small company. So what they're going to do is they're going to put some minimum requirements, which means that you need to be at this certain level in order to be able to work with with these companies itself, right? So if that's the case, let's pretend it's not a regulatory capture thing, and let's pretend there's no bribery in your government, which there always is. Just to be clear, it doesn't really matter. But sorry, TLDR, to be able to sell my software, I need to build it for my own company first. Is there conflict of interest there? Like, when you say your own company, you mean the company that you're working for, or you mean for your own company that you're going to start? Make sure I understand that correctly. Because I'm not certain if it's if you're saying that you want to. So you say I don't have an established company, meaning that you didn't create a company, but that's easy, at least as far as I know, right? That's just going down to the government office and just filing some paperwork to get a company. Okay. Okay. Explain it to me, and then I'll pause for a bit while the stream catches up. Let me pause for a bit while the stream catch up. Okay. Actually, I think I misunderstand what you're saying. Your nope means that you're confirming that you don't have an established company. I'm sorry, I misunderstood your nope. I thought you were saying no. That's not what I'm saying. Sorry. Hang on, let me finish again. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, in either case, let me finish on my thought. But your thought is right. I will use school to chat and write to you. Okay, fair enough. That's fair. Matter of fact, that's the whole purpose of the school. So thanks for writing that. That would be great. Actually, a great write up, because then I could actually don't message me directly. Message it in the group, because then we can have a conversation about it. Other people can chime in as well too, right? Thanks for mentioning that, because that's the whole purpose of the group, right? These live calls, we can only do so many things on it. Jumping in here and jumping on the live. Putting the post in here, right? Put it down in the founder zone, right? This one here we're a little bit behind on in terms of posting, but it's basically a founder's question. I don't have accomplished established to sell my SaaS. Yeah, but that's easy though. The real question is, I do want to address this kind of thing, right? Like, just one thing I want to say about this here, because this is important. You can just okay. I guess the only question is, does it have to be a Dominican Republican company, like in your country, or can it be an international company too? Because you can, if that's the case, and obviously money might be an issue here, but you could go to Stripe at last, right? And you could get yourself established with a company pretty fast, a Delaware Corp, right? This will give you a thing. Look at this. They just added more on their line. Lovable, right? Because Lovable, by the way, is a I think it's a Swedish company, if I'm not mistaken. Which I think it's a Swedish company, right? Lovable headquarters, Stockholm's, Sweden. Yeah, right. So they use Stripe at last to set up their company. This is a standard path. Okay, you use Stripe at last to set up your company. Is a $500 investment. Now, I'm saying that with a grain of salt. It depends on where you are in your country and your financial level, right? It might not be at something that you could kind of spend the money on. So I'm saying that with sort of that caveat in mind. But my point is, um, it's not hard to get a basic company set up, and then from there, you're in the races. Right now, the other thing that you'd mentioned, I'll touch very quickly on, is the fact that it might require that you have some customers in order to kind of go from there. So with that in mind, you might potentially just go out and just talk to 3 or 4 people that are willing to be beta users for your product. So in other words, go do exactly what I'm telling you to do, which is go find some people, put them on a waiting list, right? And then have them sort of like be on their waiting list, and use that maybe to go to the government and be like, hey, I have 3 people that are interested in this, and see if they're willing to work with you, since it's a new thing, right? But to your point, we can discuss the details back and forth in the actual thing. It can be an international company, but I think that to make transactions, like get paid from DR companies, you need to be able to have your own software with new requirements. To get paid from DR companies, you need to be able to have your own software with new requirements. I will send you the requirements and let you know the problem. Yeah, do that, because I'm really, really interested in this. Like, I actually believe I can solve this problem for you, no problem. Like, I think I can solve this for you. I actually, like, I have some ideas based on what you're telling me and based on what I know about the Caribbean, but I actually believe your country is a little bit more advanced than Antigua, which is where I grew up, because of the fact that you showed me, at least I remember last couple of streams back, that there's a couple payment processors that are already active in your region. And if that's the case, then that means there's already a way to get money in and out for your country, whether it's, thing, because essentially what it translates to is you could get these big companies to either pay you by credit card, right? And then you just do a wire transfer down to your local region. There's ways to solve this problem. I don't think this is the barrier for you, right? Now, is it cheaper to get it set up in your country? 100%. Like, it's much, much cheaper, right? Like, people make it really complicated to set up a company. It's not. In the past, I used to think, oh, you need to get all these lawyers and blah blah blah. No, it's actually, you just go down to the government, and you just basically find the section of the whatever department that is responsible for business registration. You just tell them you want a business registration. They'll give you some paperwork. They'll ask you for a couple of documents, and you just fill it in and you just hand it in. It's that simple. It's actually not complicated. Now, obviously, I can't speak specifically to your country, but I'm pretty certain it's about the same across the Caribbean for the most part, right? A little bit archaic, a little bit old school, but still the process is roughly the same. So anyway, shoot me a message in the Five Code and chat, and we're gonna go into a little bit deeper. I'm really, really interested in your use case, because I think it's a fascinating one that I care about, and I think it'll be a good use case for other international people that that are in the group, to kind of learn on how to structure things properly. Because yours is, I think it's a little more complicated. I would argue. I think so. We'll see. Anyway. So where are we? Okay, what are we doing here? We're supposed to be writing code today, but I don't mind. I'm happy to just do whatever things. So going back to lead score, I mentioned the Cosmo DB. I mentioned the backend. I mentioned sort of how it's set up on the thing. Where I'm having some issues with this application now is having these sort of independent workers, where we can have. So for example, I want to give a real example so it makes sense, just in case people weren't following along before. So let's just say that this Prime Core, right? These are all test users, but let's just say this Prime Core, I sent an email out, right? So I went in here And this email is supposed to put in, but let's just go with let's go with Dwayne. It's Dio, right? So let's just say I sent an email out to this particular person. Okay. After I said, oh, I can't even get the send button. Jeez. Let me just zoom out. Yeah, there we go. Right. So let's say I sent an email out to this particular person. Okay. And that email is now logged in the system as being sent. What's supposed to happen is there's supposed to be a bunch of background service that's supposed to trigger now to say, hey, one, automatically follow up with this person in 3 days, depending on my business rules. Where are those business rules stored? Those business rules are stored in settings. And by the way, this is where Cosmo DB really shines, because all this stuff is sitting in Cosmo DB. And they're stored in here. For example, I have a whole bunch of settings around ICP, product sales pitch, lead scoring. I won't go into all the details inside of here. A whole bunch of customizations that I can do that are settings related. All this is just stuff setting in NoSQL database, to go back to your point, Raman, about like why NoSQL works. This is where it shines, because as the business evolves, I can keep adding properties to a JSON object and just keep dumping it into NoSQL, no problem, without having to deal with all of the adding a new table and relational database and ORMs and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's where this thing. Now the problem is that this part here I haven't built out as yet, and this is the part that I'm working on, which is you're supposed to be able to just come in here and add a new playbook. So what is a playbook? The playbook is, we want to kind of move this lead through the pipeline. And so in order to do that, like I said, I just sent an email. So I need to wait 3 days for a response. If I don't get a response, I'm going to basically send an automated follow-up. The system is doing this. If I don't hear from that person, maybe I'm going to go online and message them on Instagram if their Instagram is in there. If I don't hear from them, maybe I'm going to send them a LinkedIn message. If I don't hear from them, maybe I'm going to wait 5 days. I'm going to send them another email. If I don't hear from them, maybe I'm going to wait like a week and then I'm going to send them an article. Or if I don't hear from them, maybe I'm going to send them a video that I posted on my YouTube channel or a TikTok or Instagram, whatever platform of preference here. You get the idea. I'm going to keep sending messages to that person until they say, I don't want to hear from you, or I'm not interested, or tell me more. Right? I'm just going to keep doing that. And that's where this whole platform really, really shines. So in order to do that, Cloudflare Workers really shines, right? And the thing that I've been exploring of lately is Workers AI. So they have this new product. It's called Workers AI. It's hard to explain it, but it does a couple things really well. Number one, it allows you to basically sort of connect with an LLM, so you can basically get things. But the cool thing is that I can basically trigger a message, a workflow, have that workflow basically wait like a couple of days or something like that, and then trigger another message, and it can have that workflow keep going and going and going and going until I think so. Just look at the numbers. The numbers are just kind of stupid. So it's this Workers AI, edge of the model, right? And sorry, workflows is what I'm looking at. Workflows. So this one here, it's what do you call it? Like it's like a how to describe it. The best way I could say it is like this. It's like, do this, wait for 5 minutes, do this. If you don't get a response, wait for 3 months and then do this. And Cloudflare just kind of keeps all of that stuff in the background. Just one little caveat. This one here is a little bit more expensive. And by expensive, it's not that much expensive. It does require a base. Now it says no building here, so I start building or whatever. But it does require a base, a $25 a month thing as far as I remember correctly. Workers platform, this one here. right? $25 a month, extended capability workers with customer. Sorry, this is for your SaaS. I'm sorry. It was this one here, workflows, right? Right. So I don't know if I want to touch this today because it might be too depth to start at, like, at the end of our call kind of deal. So what can we sort of focus on? Let me just see. Oh, right. So I have this other. This is the kind of. I'm just gonna. You know what I'm gonna do? This entire video is just gonna be me just kind of talking through sort of the back end part of this, and then depending on interest of this video, I'm gonna do a next one with a little bit more in depth. So the other thing that this application is also doing on the background is it's also opening up every single website. So for example, every time you import a website here, it goes out and it see these are dummy websites, so they're not as relevant. But let me see if there's any. Yeah, see here, it's supposed to be showing you actual websites, but because this is all dummy data, it doesn't really make a difference here. But the idea is this: when you click on one of these links here on this side here, you can add notes in the middle, and then you could see the website. And the reason why this exists is that you could keep, as a salesperson, you could just keep going through the next, focusing only on the highest value customers or leads. Now, the website preview, so some of these websites are blocking it. So one of the things that I want to actually do with this here is, instead of me showing the website live, is I'm going to have Cloudflare Worker use the browser renderer, which I have another project that does that already, but I'm gonna do a tutorial specifically on it. I'm just talking through the details right now. So we're gonna use the browser rendering API, which is going to then go out, make an actual API call to that website, take a screenshot, and store the screenshot of the website, so that whenever I load here, I don't have to load the actual website every single time. Why? Because this is an iframe, and some browsers block iframe for security reasons, so it doesn't load. So the browser render is a fantastic tool to accomplish something like this with. That's one. The other thing, right now, like I said, I'm just talking through some of the details here. I'm going to see if we're going to actually write any code in a bit. The other thing is Appify. I don't know if you guys know Appify. I haven't used them in a while because I've been focusing on building out my own stuff. But this platform here is by far, bar none, the best platform that you can build out to do any of this sort of automated scraping, automated type of thing. The guys here are really, really good. Let's see. So with Appify, here's what you can do. Let's say I wanted to find, right, going back to our, where are we? Going back to this list here. Let's say I wanted to go and find all of the people in a very specific, let's say with Instagram, with a very specific keyword. So we're dealing with moms, so we're going to keep going doing that one with moms, right? What I could do is I could come here, I could go to home. I could look for, I'm going to do, let's talk about LinkedIn. So we're going to go to the App Store. We're going to say, Instagram. Let's do Instagram. Or let's do Facebook. So let's do Facebook groups. Okay. So Facebook groups is going to extract data from multiple public Facebook groups, get groups and post URL, post text, comments, timestamp, likes, etc., and basic commenter. So it's going to extract all of the Facebook groups. Now I'm looking for groups with a specific thing in mind, moms. Okay. And then how is this one paid for? Maybe we'll do it. You know what? Let's do one that I actually care about. Contractors. So this is going to scrape all of the Facebook group that has the word contractors, because that's something I actually care about for my business. Okay. I don't know if I have any credits here, but we'll see. Oh yeah, I think I do. So yeah, so I'm looking for all Facebook groups with the keyword contractors inside of it, and we're going to find them. And this is an API that is also hooked up in here, right? So we have this whole research tool here where you could put in a URL, a LinkedIn URL or something like that, and it will go do the research for you on it. What we did is we actually connected it to the Apify interface, and we're using this behind the scenes in the background to be able to kind of do the scrape and do the data, because it don't make sense for you to build out all this infrastructure. You just be wasting your time. There's smarter people out there that are dedicated and focused on these problems. So in this particular case, this Apify Facebook scraper is literally going out there, crawl one of two pages, 0 failed, right? And it's doing some very, very advanced complex thing in order to kind of pull that data for us. So let's see what it comes back with. Okay. There are no items with the word contractors, really. Let's see if we could find. Right, and then you could use this API in order to kind of do the details to get the access to that information. But let's do. So why didn't it? Let's see what it says. Using the old request implementation without request lock-in. Failed requests. Okay, so it's basically getting blocked, it seems like. So not a good one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that one right off the top because it doesn't work. Let's see if we could find one that actually works. See if I could show you guys a real world use case and how you would go about doing this a little bit more automated, but a little more at scale. How can I delete it? Okay, it doesn't matter. Abort. Yeah, and then let's do this and hide from recently used. Okay, yeah, because we don't care about it. So, okay, let's do Facebook again, and let's see if we can find. Is this the one that I just used? This one has 8. Let's do Facebook groups. So let's look for one that has proper reviews. 4.3, 33 reviews. 177. Okay, let's go with this guy. What is the cost? So I'm looking for a number of posts, 20. I'm looking for keyword contractors. Isn't this the one that I used before? This is the one that I used before. Interesting. That is the one that I just used before, but I'm going to just come back in here, go back to the store and see if I could find. Facebook group scraper. Let's see if I could find one. Maybe these guys? That's the only downside, is that you do have to kind of hunt a little bit to kind of find one that actually works. This might not be the best thing for me to do in this particular stream, but I'm going to try to see if I can do it. And if not, then we're going to do it easier task, because you do have to spend a little bit of time on it. So Facebook group, extract Facebook group members, including profile information. Okay, so I actually don't have any groups that I could scrape here. Let's do something a little bit easier. Let's do Instagram. Okay, and we're going to do Instagram scraper. And we're going to look for scrape posts. So we want scrape profiles, scrape details of profiles, including hashtag or cases. And we're going to Let's see, search queries instead. So we're looking for contractors. Let's try this one. I'm just kind of randomly doing this here at this particular point. And the only reason I'm doing this is, like I said, it's just to give you an idea of how you would go about finding, right, like potential people to target. So, okay, it brought back one thing because this is just a trial run of this, but let's just see what data it actually came back with. So, the Internet New York Times bestseller. What else did it bring back here? So this is the full name. This is the account. This is their post, how many posts that they made, URL, etc., verified. Okay, so this, let's see if we could, so what did I edit here? Okay, so let's just get rid of this. And then let's just do a scrape based on this. Search results limited to 1. Let's do 5. And let's do results per URL. Yeah, let's do save and start to see what happens. So basically, I'm trying to scrape Instagram to go and see for contractors. That's basically what the goal is, right? So we could find a bunch of people. There we go. Okay. So doing that now, we're trying to find. So here, these are a bunch of contractors. So now I could see contractor life, right? Yeah, this looks like a company that I would go after. Contractor Instagram. Yeah. Okay. So this is way that you do it. So again, just going back to how this kind of relates, right? This is how you would go find a bunch of companies that are very specific to the people that you're looking at. Obviously, you could go on Instagram and just do some random search or whatever. But what this does is just at a mass scale, this Appify will allow you to kind of just at a scale, just pull out. See, I just limited it to 5 just for the sake of this conversation here, but would be able to pull these details. Now, the cool thing is that you can then take this now further and get it to extract the actual email address, the actual phone number, etc., etc., based on whatever information it is that it could find on the page, maybe a website, maybe whatever, and then you will scrape the website. So there's a lot more sort of chain layers of stuff, and that's where that Cloudflare sort of workflow comes in, because it would basically help you to kind of create the workflow. I'm not going to go into the details here, right? So you see here, fetch image, generate description, wait for approval, like just a series of steps, just piece by piece by piece, right? So you might say like, okay, for every one of these Instagram page, let's go and fetch the URLs. So once you get the URLs, let's go find if there's any website information on the Instagram page. If for every single website, let me go and get the website image. Let me see if I can scrape the website with the browser API, render API to get the URL. From the URL, let me see if I could get the phone number. If I could get the phone number, let me see if I could get the validation. And you just basically have a workflow that just consistently just keeps doing that all the time, right? Just true by true by true. Okay, so that's kind of the goal and that's the mission, and that's basically what I got going on inside of here. I'm not going to go into the details on code because we've kind of diverted the conversation in multiple different directions. So I'll kind of keep it, just kind of keep it on the high level for now, and then I'm going to do some more deep dive from a video standpoint with the code. But hopefully that's giving you some value. Like for whoever's watching this in the future, if you are, please like and subscribe the video. It would mean a lot to me if you're watching it in the future. And yeah, so I don't think I have anything else I could cover. So we might end up just closing off a little bit earlier because, like I said, I don't want to go into code right now. It's just too late for that. We'd be wasting time with doing that. Let me see if there's anything else I could. kind of mention. Yeah, and just be clear that goes for Instagram, that goes for TikTok, that goes for right. Yeah, see here it is, TikTok scraper, FYI page, hashtag contract. I'm going to do the same, contractor, construction, or contractors. I don't know what the right term is. Hashtag, or maybe let's say as an example, right? And I'm looking for search contractors, save and run, right? On Instagram. Oh, sorry, on TikTok. Just kind of curious to see what it comes back with. Yeah, here. So here I got, let's go to this guy. Okay, house plan. That should be, is that house plan or house? So original video. Right, with TikTok is just coming back with significantly more content. Let me see what else. Let's see what else is in the actual data. Okay, so the links to the actual TikTok itself. Right. So this guy here is obviously some construction tips. 0 following, tons of construction tips. I don't know where. Right, this is Jake. Right, so you got these accounts, but the point is, this is how you find them, right? And then you would just message these accounts all together. I don't know, this girl seems like she's managing construction projects or something like that. Let's see who else we got here. Same guy. Men who are so different, literally need. Yeah. Right? Blue collar boys, blue collar things, Virginia. Okay, this would actually is my people here. So this is what you would basically do. You just keep finding people, and then you would just message them, message every single day. Just keep messaging, just consistently, right? Following up on every one of them multiple times until you get to a place where it's like you find, some people are interested in your product, so that you can get to a point where you could, one, get a waiting list, or two, find out, do a one-on-one chat with them to kind of understand a little bit more about their thing. So yeah, anyway, I think that's kind of a wrap for today, because it don't make any sense for me to go a little bit more detail into this. We've been all over the place, honestly. But hopefully there's some value for at least the people that are watching, later in the future. Ramon, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for asking those questions. I'm happy to know that you're back after a little bit of break. And also, it's if you have some time, like I said, drop your chat, drop your questions in the requirements in the community. I'm actually really excited and eager to kind of understand your use case a little bit more, because I feel that we could fast track it a little bit, and there might be some business opportunities for us to work together as well too, right? So the good thing about the community is that it's a community. You don't have to do it alone, right? If there's an opportunity for me to make money and for you to make money, then yeah, let's do it, right? And we just kind of work with an agreement between us that works. So I'm more open than insulating to that. I got like 100 different companies all over the place, like not literally, but yeah, kind of. So yeah. Anyway, with that, it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna call it the day right now. We're half an hour, a little bit ahead on schedule with this stream. Normally we kind of go over until like 4:15, 4:20, because I'm like last minute scrambling with code. I didn't end up doing any real code today. That's totally cool. I talked a little bit about my actual startup, and I'm gonna do more build live like this, and I'm gonna try to actually write some code live. That's a hard thing to do, but I'm gonna end up doing it. So yeah, with that, it's been a pleasure. You guys have yourself a wonderful rest of the weekend, evening, night, whatever, whenever you're watching this. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe, join the Vibe Coding School community, and I will see you in another video. There we go.